This is the Aquiline podcast. Hello, I'm your host, Lori Boyer. This podcast explores the agriculture industry with the movers and those shaking it. And today we'll be talking about innovations in agriculture, specifically on drone technology uses in agriculture. Joining me for our discussion today is Aquiline Drones founder and chairman, Barry Alexander. Barry, let's start off by talking a little bit more about you and your background.
Professional aviator by trade. Flew helicopters back then, and then I transitioned to airplanes. Flew for numerous airlines as a captain for United for 18 years and some other airlines, but also worked in different parts of aviation as a flight instructor, as a chief pilot, director of operations for a charter outfit, aircraft mechanic. And so when we think of drones and how I got into that space, you think of drones as aircraft, which falls squarely within the ambit of aviation. And so it's in my DNA as an aviator, sort of a natural progression, if you may. So that's my technical professional background that kind of led me into the drone space. Owned other businesses along the way, privately, in digital media, health information systems, construction, but also electronic payment systems. So what you see now, as far as the end results, Aquiline Drones, that somewhat represents a culmination of most of what I've done in my professional life.
Barry, let's talk more now about Aquiline Drones as a company. Tell me more about this company.
Aquiline Drones is a U.S.-based drone manufacturer, but also a provider of cloud solutions. And so we've been around for the better part of, say, 6 to 7 years, 4 of which, 3.5 of which was spent in solid incubation. And what we've built today successfully is what we call a drone technology ecosystem. So it's made up of 7 lines of business, from drone manufacturing to the provision of cloud services to the AD Academy, which provides drone pilot training online and also hands-on. One of the initiatives we championed was that of providing free drone training to all first responders, i.e. law enforcement, firefighters, other first responders nationwide, in commemoration of the 20th anniversary of 9/11 until year end. So we currently train law enforcement, firefighters, first responders nationwide to become commercial drone operators, and then we provide the infrastructure to allow them to use drones, in the line of work. We also have an in-house insurance captive that we stood up this year. So we self-indemnify products and services that are made or procured by Aquiline. We provide. I see you have a question at the tip of your tongue.
Oh, no, go ahead. Keep going. I wrote it down.
Sure. Okay. And we currently have a very, very healthy, book of business, whether it be in the area of smart farming, energy and utilities, first responder, applications or environments, enterprise asset management, through, inspections of infrastructure, AI monitored, of course, through drones that we use that are enabled with AI to give, cognitive capabilities to those drones where they compute on the edge and send that information in real time back to our cloud. So that, in essence, allows us to provide the customer end user with real-time data insights, if you may, which most times address their business's bottom line.
How long has the company been in existence?
Just a little over 3 years.
Barry, what are some of the ways that drones are currently being used?
Drones, I mean, there's a multitude of use cases for drones. Just think of anything that requires an aerial perspective from multiple, vantage points. Essentially, what birds did for centuries. Now you have, eyes in the sky that provide that, aerial imagery of, an environment. And so that third dimension is really the added benefit that drones bring to any equation. So again, law enforcement, firefighting, energy and utilities, inspections, cell phone towers, wind turbines, bridges, tunnels, anything that can be seen from the sky or monitored from the sky, with the right camera or sensor package, allowing for, thermal imagery, for example, identifying bodies where ordinarily you would not see them in post-disaster environments, is namely, the benefit that, is derived by society when drones are used.
Specifically, let's talk about how drones are being used in the agriculture industry.
In multiple ways, from your typical, geodetic surveys, land surveys and mapping, to fruit counting using AI algorithms to count fruit, apples, pears, berries, what have you, to fruit analysis, to applying pesticides, to precision farming, killing of precise, termination of bugs, multitude of applications in farming.
Barry, can you give us some more detailed examples or specifics in what agriculture uses there are for drones?
When you speak of farming, it's not just agriculture. You also can include, the management of livestock. So whether it be as an aerial rancher, managing your livestock as far as, counting your cattle, being able to ascertain the cattle's health through health monitoring, sensors or temperature monitoring sensors that could detect, rapid, rise in body temperatures, obviously a sign of impending poor health, which if your purpose for ranching is that of harvesting, beef or milk from the cattle, it's important to know today the health of your livestock, which somewhat gives you an indication of what that will trade for after it's harvested. So prompting you to be more proactive as far as the actions you take in isolating the unhealthy, animals.
Let's talk more now about autonomous drones.
Autonomous drones. Autonomous drones essentially have, the abilities to the ability to do what it is they're programmed to do with little human intervention. And so if the drone is programmed to go from point A to point B and perform a task in swarm formation, for example, we're expecting that drone to see and avoid objects. In a case where we use a little bit more advanced neural processing networks, the drone uses a system that allows it to compute its course in real time, just as a person would. So essentially, it's not, see and avoid capability goes beyond what you see out there, where you're not navigating an object because it was implanted based on a geolocation. It's actually a result of, cognition that the drones can sense that it's something that needs to be navigated, and it makes a decision based on the dynamic environment, which way to go, left to the right, or, over it or whatever. But more importantly, autonomous operations goes beyond just, a program set. The drones can think of why they're doing what they're doing. They can work in swarm formation as a team and act on behalf of other team drones, if there's an issue, compared to semi-autonomous operations where There is someone either deploying the drone or retrieving the drone or using manual override capabilities to do things other than letting the drones do it well on its own.
Barry, before we move on, I want to jump back to livestock. Let's just use an example of how autonomous drones and drone technology can be used if a producer were to lose track of some of their livestock.
There is not a specific drone technology. The applications are specific to the level of autonomy that's afforded by the drone, and that comes in the form of AI algorithms that are trained using not just historical data, but machine learning and natural language processing (NLP) to make determinations based on what the drone understands that it's seeing, and to thereafter make prescriptive recommendations as to a course of action for a rancher. A cow straying off, a head of cow straying off as a result of it being chased or it being ill, determinations that the drone can make why the animal is fleeing or getting away from the pack. So it's again not a very specific function, but an application that's AI driven that somewhat narrows it down based on the task at hand.
Barry, you also wanted to mention some of the exciting developments you have coming up for Aquiline drones.
Yes, so Flight to the Future was conceptualized somewhere around three years ago, and it's a rich expose of or treatment of curricula designed around special industries. So not only do we teach you everything from A to Z about drones, we also teach you cloud technology. We teach you about registering a business, managing a business in the drone space, anything that would allow someone who is unemployed, underemployed, displaced, especially in a post-COVID environment, to delve into an entirely new industry with the skill set and knowledge base to become potentially a successful business owner as a drone service provider. And so for $12.99, the average person could get into an entirely new and exciting industry that is, by all accounts, burgeoning. I mean, think for $12.99, if by comparison you wanted to become a hairdresser, I mean that's $15,000 to $20,000 for 29 weeks, and at the end you get a skull and a wig and probably a moisturizer kit to work with. But here, upon successful completion of the course, we also provide you work through what's called a drone on demand app akin to Uber, where we aggregate all the service requests nationwide from individuals and businesses alike. So you, Laurie, may have an outdoor wedding event planned for sometime in December, and you may request or require aerial footage of that wedding. And so by downloading the app and putting in the request and paying for it beforehand, we could vet the request for legality. I mean, if of course you asked us to surveil the White House, it would be no. But we could provide that service, and on the day that the service is to be provided, here you have numerous drone service providers, just like Uber drivers, who all have the app that has special functionality like what's called a command and control dashboard, would accept the job based on proximity to where they are, but also the value of the job, if it's something they're trained to do, if it's something they have the right equipment to do. They go to the job, they go to the site, deploy the drone does the job. There is no communication between the drone pilot and you, of course. It's all handled just like Uber, and we take a small amount of the top to pay for the equipment that we put in their hands when they graduate.
Barry, you also manufacture a workstation or a pod. It's called the Agile Pod. Talk to me more about that.
No, that's a lot to unpack. But essentially, the agile manufacturing pod is a palletized 17 by 17 to average size manufacturing workstation that came as a result of us conceptualizing decentralized manufacturing. Your typical manufacturing environment requires people to go to those manufacturing centers. We thought the advent of advanced manufacturing should include the ability for people to manufacture from home in the private spaces. So here you have a unit that's shipped to your home or community center, and it somewhat emulates a work environment that you're either familiar with or are about to become familiar with. In which case, it's drone manufacturing, and so you could manufacture drones on our behalf in your basement, garage, living room, wherever best suited for its installation. And we coordinate the supply chain through AI, so we know based on the demand for parts or inventory when the parts should be shipped to you. If it's done as a community effort, then you could change the flavoring of the manufacturing activity. So, first 6 months you could be producing drones. Next 6 months you could be making dentures, prosthetics, anything from A to Z. And next thing you know, you have a decent or an all-encompassing manufacturing ecosystem within the community. But it also addresses, on the flip side, it also addresses some of the encumbrances of people getting to work, mobilization of the workforce, childcare, anything from A to Z. And you can imagine a post-COVID environment where working remotely is becoming of great appeal to the general populace. It dovetails nicely into that environment.
Barry, another exciting development is a new airline that you're launching.
80 airlines.
Oh, okay.
We just, as of last week, we were granted authorization by the FAA as a full-fledged airline.
Oh,
and
cool.
So
Okay.
It's something that we've been working on for the past few years. We were successful at putting together all the material for the FAA, i.e., manuals, operations manuals, maintenance manuals, safety manuals, everything from A to Z, training manuals. And we were successful at making it through every testing and evaluation gates that the FAA had, whether it be, conformity checks or, check rides or operations inspections, things of that nature, leading to us getting what's called an air carrier certificate. The long-term goal here is to operate manned aircraft, which your typical airplanes and helicopters, and drones under the same certificate. Eventually, and that's been the biggest challenge of the FAA, is how do you integrate drones into the national airspace system?
Barry, you also wanted to mention the first national drone showroom.
The showroom is first of its kind. There's no other drone showroom in the country, so that that makes it a little bit eye-catching. Gives the public immediate access to that immersive experience of drone technology. So you could come in and see what we do firsthand, from the production side of things to flight simulation side of things to the agile manufacturing pod, which will be on display there. So you can somewhat visualize what a pod would look like in your basement or garage or living room, to the ability to see different drones or associated software packages, camera sensor packages, to a sales desk, of course, where you could purchase commercial off-the-shelf available drones. So again, an immersive experience, somewhat like a car dealership, where everything is on display and everything is for sale.
I want to thank my guests for joining me here on the Ag Queen podcast here today, Aquiline Drones founder and chairman Barry Alexander. For more information, log on to aquilinedrones.com, spelled AQUILINE drones.com. That does it for the Ag Queen podcast today. I'm your host, Lori Boyer.